I'm very pleased to be here today with all our cross-party colleagues and all our guests today. You're most welcome to Parliament. Above all, I would like to endorse Bob Blackman's welcome to you, Madam Rajavi, to the UK Parliament today. You are leading the largest and most organised Iranian opposition coalition for a democratic republic in Iran, and it is an honour to be in your presence, as always. Madam Rajavi, to commemorate Human Rights Day with an important discussion on how best we advance the cause of human rights in Iran and what we can do to make sure that the people of Iran can one day experience basic rights and freedoms as we do here in the UK. And there can be no doubt, as you said, that our efforts must be built on closer cooperation with your movement as the true representative of the democratic aspiration of the Iranian people. And I agree with you that international efforts must be focused on ending the impunity that exists in Iran. Sadly, due to international failure at the UN, which Dr. Posk referred to, and the West's softly approach, which is to accommodate the regime, thereby hoping to encourage a change in its appalling behavior, we have a situation now in Iran where human rights defenders and pro-democracy activists are imprisoned, while human rights abusers, like the current President Raisi, are promoted instead of being held accountable for the atrocities for which they're responsible. And that is totally unacceptable. And it explains the current situation, which is unsustainable for anyone with conscience. And the fact that the regime has now enacted new legislation with tougher penalties, harsher punishments for women and girls who are protesting and who are challenging even the compulsory hijab laws speaks for itself and shows what kind of regime we are dealing with today. I think the courage of the women and girls of Iran is recognized in the recent awards, which we heard over the weekend. These awards represent important international recognition of and support for the struggle against the tyranny of the Iranian regime. But as long as this regime is allowed to act with impunity, nothing will change. I urge our government to lead an international coalition of allies and partners asking the UN Security Council to review the regime's appalling human rights record, to refer those responsible for state repression, for systematic human rights violations to prosecution. I also believe, as Madam Rajavi said in her remarks, that our governments could take important steps here in the UK to hold the regime to account by looking into prosecution of its officials and leaders under international law and the legal principle of universal jurisdiction. There is also a recommendation that the UN Special Rapporteur on Iran, Javed Rehman, is putting forward in his latest report to the General Assembly. It makes no sense for our government to endorse his mandate and then turn around and ignore its recommendations. In the meantime, I believe the appropriate step is to continue to impose targeted human rights sanctions against the regime. Our government must include the regime's leaders, particularly the Supreme Leader Khomeini and his President Raisi, in the next round of sanctions, to make it clear to the regime that they cannot and will not escape justice and accountability. It should also prescribe the IRGC. There is absolutely no doubt about that. It's internationally recognized that its activities fulfill all the conditions for prescription under UK law. And finally, the best policy we can have for our government is to stand with the Iranian people and their organized opposition, led by you, Madam Rajavi, to ensure that you succeed in establishing a free, democratic and secular republic in Iran. The future of the people of Iran is with its people, best represented by you, Madam Rajavi, and by the very courageous people who work with us here in the UK Parliament, not by the brutal regime which is torturing and killing its people. Thank you.